Back in 1863, a new performer was introduced at P.T Barnum's infamous Greatest Show on Earth. This was Anna Haining Bates, a woman who stood nearly 8 foot tall. She soon became a celebrity and made the most of her situation. Yet, there were also tragic aspects to her life, and the one thing she wanted most eluded her. But before we get to all that, let's go back to the beginning. Anna Haining Swan was born in the Millbrook region of Nova Scotia in Canada on the 6th of August 1846. She was the third of a large brood of 13 children, born to Alexander Swan and his wife, Anne Graham. Anna's family was originally from Scotland, as her father had immigrated to Nova Scotia from Dumfries, and her mother's ancestry was from the Orkney Islands, off the northern coast of Scotland. From very early on in life, it was clear that Anna was different to her siblings. As an infant, she began to grow incredibly fast, and this wouldn't stop. She is believed to have been a normal size at birth, though there are a few accounts that suggest she was a giant baby. In any case, by the time she was just 5 years old, she was already 4 foot 8 inches tall and is said to have weighed over 100 pounds. For those who use a metric system, this is around 142 centimeters and 45 kilos. And this rapid growth continued as the years went by. Though medical knowledge at the time was insufficient for her to be diagnosed accurately, Anna was clearly born with a condition known as gigantism. This results from a disorder of the pituitary gland, which is responsible for producing growth hormone. Overproduction of this hormone in childhood and teenage years then leads to the person growing to an abnormal size, and people with the condition usually live shorter lives. Despite her peculiar physical growth, Anna had a fairly normal childhood. Her parents were pious Christians and tried their best to treat her as well as their other children, even when people in Nova Scotia would show up to their home to see what was called the giantess baby. She received a good education for the time and was an excellent student. She loved to read, had a taste for music, and was considered to be very intelligent. Yet, her school life also had its difficulties. Due to her great size, she was too big for the classroom desks, and for a time was teased about her height. Anna also quickly outgrew her clothes, her shoes, and even her bed. Anna's family tried their best to provide for her, with her father even building an extra large bed for his daughter, but this placed financial strain on the large family. All of this would lead her into one of the 19th century's most exploitative businesses. Over the years, Anna gained a minor celebrity in Nova Scotia, and their news about the giant woman in rural Canada spread to the United States. There, P.T Barnum, the reputed greatest showman on earth, a manager of what was cruelly called freak shows at the time, heard about Anna. Barnum ran shows in which dwarves, giants, people with 4 or 6 legs, and various other unusual features were displayed. Both he and his performers made good money from the shows, despite them being subject to public ridicule. So, in 1862, Barnum sent an agent to Nova Scotia and put forward an offer for Anna to come to New York City and join what was then known as Barnum's American Museum. Yet, Anna's parents refused his offer. Even though they needed the money, they were God-fearing Presbyterians and viewed Barnum as being an unscrupulous devil. Moreover, they knew that Anna wanted to be a teacher and respected her wishes. Anna, who was now 17, had actually moved to another town and began working at a school there. While here, she was insulted about her height, and the townspeople constantly stared at her, with some even following her around. All of this made her incredibly uncomfortable, and it was now that she contacted Barnum and took him up on his offer. The deal Anna negotiated with Barnum was good. She was to be paid $23 a week to begin with, around $700 today, a chaperone to ensure she was protected around Manhattan, and a tutor to teach her on various subjects for 3 hours daily. She became an educated businesswoman as a result, and also took up learning to play the piano and to sing. Finally, she was able to make extra money on the side by taking a large percentage of the fee paid for photos of her sold at Barnum's museum. She was soon making lots of money, billed as being over 8 feet tall and the tallest woman in the world. This was a slight exaggeration at the time, as she was still growing, eventually reaching a total height of 7 foot and 11 inches, or 241 centimeters. Yet, Anna's time with Barnum was not all smooth sailing, and it nearly ended up costing her life. On the 13th of July 1865, a fire broke out at Barnum's museum. Fires were a common hazard in 19th century cities like New York, and as the Great Fire of Chicago in 1871 would soon demonstrate, they could often spin completely out of control. In this particular case, the flames ripped through the Barnum Museum and soon engulfed the lower floors. Anna was upstairs on the 3rd floor at the time, and this placed her life in serious jeopardy. Alone and scared for her life, she tried to look for a window to climb out of, but her huge size left her no chance of being able to climb through a normal window. As the flames rose through the museum, a number of other performers and staff came to Anna's rescue. They directed her towards the loft of the building, parts of which were made of wood. There they were able to smash around the window to widen it. They then lowered Anna out through the window and down to safety outside. This was some feat, one which required 18 men using ropes and some blocks and tackles to hoist her down to the floor. Anna immediately tried to pay the favour back, using her great height to help pull others from the building after she'd reached safety herself. After this close call in the summer of 1865, Anna had lost everything. All of her possessions were burned in the fire, and Barnum's shows were on a hiatus, meaning she was also temporarily out of a job. She headed home to Nova Scotia for a while, but was back touring again before long. Incredibly, after returning to perform in Barnum's ensemble, she was present when yet another fire destroyed his new museum in 1868. Early in 1871, Anna was undertaking a tour of Europe. On the way across the Atlantic, she met one Martin Van Buren Bates. He was a man from Kentucky who had been named after the 8th US President, Martin Van Buren, who had entered office in 1837, the same year Bates was born. Bates, though, had become more widely known as the Kentucky Giant. Martin was a huge man, though slightly shorter than Anna, measuring 7 foot 9 inches, or 236 centimeters, and weighing a rumoured 470 pounds, or 213 kilograms. Romance blossomed between the pair during the transatlantic voyage, and by the time they arrived in England, Anna and Martin had decided to marry. The ceremony was performed at the Church of St. Martin in the Fields in London on the 17th of June 1871. In the tour that followed, Anna and Martin were variously billed as the tallest couple on the globe and the largest married couple in the world. They travelled through Europe for the next year, and then with a handsome amount of money saved, headed home to America. There they decided to retire to rural Ohio, near the town of Seville. Here the couple purchased a farm and stocked it with cattle and horses. Anna was particularly anxious to take any animals that were being retired from circuses, to ensure they had a good home after their working lives were over. This even included a monkey called Buttons. Martin also built a house for them, endearingly constructed with 14-foot high ceilings and doors that stood 8.5 foot high, so neither he nor Anna would bump their heads. One part of the house, though, which was built for the servants they hired, was built with normal-sized roofs, to make them feel more at ease. They continued to do regular tours with a circus run by W. Cole during the summers, but they were semi-retired in Ohio by the mid-1870s. It was not a bad life here. Often the story of circus performers with deformities or unusual appearances in the 19th century was one of exploitation by those who employed them. However, in the case of Anna and Martin, they skillfully managed their careers for a period of about 10 years to make a sizable fortune, and then retired to live comfortably in Ohio. Yet, tragedy was just around the corner. On the 19th of May 1872, while they were still touring Europe, Anna gave birth to a very large 18-pound baby girl in London. Sadly, this was a stillbirth. Following this, Bates and Anna fell into a depression. Still, they hoped to have children together one day, and were delighted when Anna once again became pregnant 6 years later. On the 15th of January 1879, Anna went into the initial stages of labour at home on the farm in Seville, and a doctor was called. 3 days later, her water finally broke, startling everyone present by the sheer amount of fluid, apparently totaling some 6 gallons. Despite this, everything suggested that it would be a quick and successful birth. But then things quickly went downhill. As the baby's head emerged, the doctor grabbed his forceps and tried to place them around the baby's head as was standard procedure. But something was wrong. The baby's head was too big. A second doctor had now arrived, and they decided to wrap a bandage around the baby's neck to assist in delivering the child. After several attempts, they succeeded. Anna's baby boy was and still is the largest newborn ever recorded, weighing nearly 24 pounds, around 3 times what most babies weigh at birth. Yet, tragically, the babe died after just 11 hours. It would be Anna's last pregnancy. One of the most curious aspects of Anna's life was her friendship with Queen Victoria. During one of her earliest international tours, Anna had travelled to England. There the Queen was one of the people who met the tallest woman in the world. They conversed and ended up striking up a rapport. The Queen and the giantess remained in contact thereafter. When Victoria learned that Anna was set to marry in 1871, she decided that she would bestow a special gift on her. She ordered the royal seamstress and tailors to design a bridal gown for Anna, one that was fashioned out of many meters of brocaded satin and lace, and decorated with orange blossoms. It was also possibly the Queen who arranged for Anna and Martin to marry at the Church of St. Martin in the Fields in London. This is a famous church in Trafalgar Square, one which is not accessible to just anybody for occasions like this, and Victoria's intercession would have been needed. After the wedding, Victoria had Anna and Martin visit her at Buckingham Palace, the foremost royal house in the city of London. There she gifted Anna a ring set with a cluster of diamonds, while Martin received a gold pocket watch on a chain. Years later, Victoria would write to Anna to express her sorrow at learning the news of the death of her son in childbirth. The couple would also meet with the Queen again on 2 further occasions when visiting Europe. In order to take their minds off the deaths of their children, Anna and Martin recommenced touring for a brief period of time with W. Cole's show in the middle of 1879. They continued on this for over half a year, before playing their final events in the spring of 1880. Thereafter, Anna and her husband retired permanently to Ohio. They would live out the remainder of their lives on the farm, becoming quite involved with the local Baptist church. Anna died on the 5th of August 1888, a day before her 42nd birthday at home in Ohio. The cause of her death is disputed. On the one hand, she was probably suffering from a pituitary tumour, and her unusual anatomy would have created myriad health conditions over the years. On the other hand, some studies conclude that she died from consumption, the 19th century term for tuberculosis. She left behind a sizable estate valued at $40,000, the equivalent of several $1 million in today's money. Some of her jewellery and other items were bequeathed to members of her family, such as her brothers, sisters, nieces and nephews. Others have found their way into a Sunrise Trail museum in her native Nova Scotia. After Anna's death, Martin erected a monument on her grave to commemorate her life. He would go on to live for another 30 years after her passing, and remarried a woman of a more standard height, and moved into town. Still, after he died in 1919, aged 81, he was laid to rest in a grave alongside Anna and their son, who died in infancy. In the town of Seville to this day, there is a small exhibit acknowledging that this corner of Ohio was once home to the tallest couple on the globe. Thank you so much everyone for watching this video on Anna Swan or Anna Bates. I hope you found it interesting. Let me know what you thought of her life down below in the comments, and if you have any suggestions, also be sure to leave them down below in the comments. Thank you everyone for the birthday wishes, it really means a lot to me, and I hope the wait for the video wasn't too long. Anyway, I really hope you are subscribed and have notifications turned on to get all my videos as soon as I upload them. Anyway, that's all from me, so I'll see all of you in the next Forgotten Life. Thanks.